All right, away we go. It is the nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com, brought to you as always by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off your order. Galactic Fried Chicken open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner. All right, Aaron, it is Tuesday. And Tuesday means press conference day. And throughout the basketball offseason, like since the start of practice, it has meant double press conference day as we get Luke Fickell and some football players, followed up by Wes Miller and a couple basketball guys. So Tuesday nights have been dedicated to talking about press conferences.
Talking about talking. That's what we're here for.
Talking about talking. Pretty interesting stuff from Luke today. A lot of interesting stuff from Luke today.
Can we go out of the press conference for a second and talk about the video? The 4-minute, 15-second video, which had everyone that you could think of, really. I'm sure they did everything they could to get all the NFL guys, but I think the only ones were Dez and
Dez, Sauce, and Cook.
Brian Cook and Sauce, yeah.
And then Bobby Carpenter and James Laurinaitis.
Bobby Carpenter teared me up.
He's trying to win an Oscar.
The piano hit right at the right moment. And Bobby Carpenter, you can hear, starts to choke up. And I'm like, that's good.
That's like cutting onions.
That's good.
A little dusty in here. Yeah, he was going for an Oscar on that one. But James Laurinaitis, AJ Hawk, John Cooper,
Urban,
Mike Vrabel,
Tressel,
Urban Meyer. It was awesome. I mean, you knew the video team was going to do something. You know that is, as he mentioned in the press conference,
he didn't want it out.
Yeah, he didn't want it public. That's who Luke is. But it was an awesome tribute, and it just gives an insight into whether it be former coaches, former guys that coached him, former
teammates,
people he played with, former guys he coached with or under, former players. Like, it was just an all-encompassing look at the respect that man has around the sport.
A who's who from Luke Fickell's life.
Yeah. Like, if you're throwing Luke Fickell a surprise party, those are the people that would, be there.
That's fair.
Mostly.
I even liked AJ Hawk's quote, something along the lines of, I know you're not going to really celebrate any of this because you're the hardest working man I know. And I thought that encapsulated everything.
Yeah. AJ Hawk has been a huge proponent of Luke Fickell from the day he was hired. So
just outstanding work.
Not surprised at that. Yeah, it was fantastic. Great stuff, and a good look into to Luke Fickell. He didn't say it. I didn't think there was a ton that came out of the LSU or the SMU game other than talking about the 4th and 1 and talking about the field goal that were blocked. It sounded like on the field goal, like they went back and forth because he said
if it was a shorter timeout,
we would have punted.
Mm-hmm.
But then we talked ourselves into trying the field goal again. Like Dave and I talked about Sunday, I guarantee a big part of that was like, look, Co's having a huge day. Let's ride the hot hand. Like, sometimes in sports, that's what you do. You ride the hot hand. And then talking about 4th and 1 and saying, he doesn't look back on much of anything, because I do think like that's
said he doesn't play with regrets, and I can respect that.
Yeah. But maybe he would like to have that one back. 17-0, had momentum. SMU hadn't done anything.
He did go back on it though and said, "This is who we are. This is what we do."
Yeah.
So this shouldn't honestly surprise anybody that we went for it. So I don't know. He kind of talked about out of both sides of his mouth on it. I'm not to this moment. I'm not certain which way he actually feels in regards to going for it on that 4th and 1. I don't know that he would go back and change anything. Obviously, you get the dub and you get out of there
I think more than anything, you know what he was saying, right? Knowing what I know now, I probably would do it different. But if given the choice again,
I would make the same
in
decision.
the moment, I would go for it again.
So
it's a little wishy-washy.
It is,
but it's honest.
Sure.
Like,
because you're not going to get anything but that from Luke Fickell.
Right, and with the privilege of hindsight, or knowing the end result, I probably would have punted, but 4th and 1 to keep momentum and keep them off the field, I probably would have gone for it.
So the next thing came up is probably my favorite thing to come out of this press conference.
Okay.
He started to talk about UCF, and the question was asked, is this becoming a rivalry? And clearly, in his mind, this is becoming a rivalry, if not to anyone else in the entire world, to Luke Fickell.
Well, yeah. Now talk about why.
Well,
because of the
game one.
range shortened
Right.
drubbing.
Right. The fact that a game was called still lives with him to this day, and he can't get past that a game was called.
And he can't get past that they got their ass kicked.
Well, there is that.
Like he even said, like, everybody that's beat us, like he's got the list at home.
Right. People asked about last night what games were circled. It's gonna be the teams that have beat him. If you have handed him an L, he has got your name circled in big red marker.
It's the what movie was that? The guy that has the list. Adam Sandler, Billy Madison.
Billy Madison, yeah.
Yeah. That's Luke Fickell. He's got his list of teams he wants to take out, and he wants to do that to UCF every time they play. I got a little shout out there.
Humble brag?
No, it's just funny. He's like, because of people like Chad, it's maybe a little bit more intense on the internet.
Well, and he did say he did credit you with the way that you banter about with the fans. I think that's exactly how he phrased it, actually. How you banter about with the fans of UCF and even our own fans sometimes, that this rivalry has become intense, if nowhere else than Twitter and with Luke Fickell.
Yeah, it was. Did you notice the other thing he said? He said this is the first real conference road game for us. The first real road game since Arkansas.
He said
a direct shot at Tulsa at SMU.
Sure.
Not even a glancing blow.
Like, well, we weren't really worried about them.
No, more.
We're worried
they
about
don't really have any fans in their stadiums.
But they didn't. I mean, even making the game free didn't work.
SMU, I didn't know this. Did you know that was their homecoming?
Yes.
They made it their home. Why? What's the thought process behind let's get our ass kicked? Let's lose on homecoming.
Because if you know that you're going to get your ass kicked and you know that no one's showing up to your games, why not try to get the most fans to show up to your toughest game? I get it. I get the mindset, but
not a good one. They still didn't show up, and SMU still lost.
Chad, sometimes people went at Sauce last year, and it wasn't a good strategy.
No, they didn't.
People still tried.
No, they didn't.
They tried for about three passes. I think was the high.
I still think my favorite, and we talked about this either here or on the brunch. My favorite was whoever on the board said the SMU game was sitting room only.
Yeah, because everybody was on the hill. All the fraternities, all the sorority, just hanging out on the hill in the shade under the scoreboard. Such a weird atmosphere. Like, no one's standing, no one's getting up for the game. They're just
no one's in the stands.
They're having a picnic underneath the scoreboard.
Sitting room only.
So weird. He also mentioned
that was good.
He also mentioned that he hopes Tyler Scott is 100%.
He was in practice today, participating. Had the red jersey on.
Sounds like things are trending that way.
He looked good.
I can't imagine you put him out there if he's anything less than 90%.
Oh, he's, again, speed guy.
Ferrari.
He's not going out there unless he's 100%.
Yep.
You don't put the Ferrari on the track unless it's humming. But I think he'll be fine. That's what Luke said too. We expect Tyler to play on Saturday.
I also liked what he said about that he wants the offense to be balanced. And I guess to the people who are kind of scared about what the play calling has been, he addressed some of that as it's kind of like what Zach Taylor said about the Bengals, where it's an offensive play calling by committee. It's not Geno's first time doing this, as he has been part of the offensive calling before. But he did say he wants the offense to be balanced, but he's not going to force it. He's not going to dig his heels in. He's not going to put his head in the sand and continue to try and do something that isn't working. So they will continue to play what the defense gives them.
Right. Some interesting stuff there, definitely. Let me see if there's anything else.
That's what I had in my notes.
Yeah, I've got the whole kit and caboodle here. The outside expectations thing was obvious. I don't worry about outside expectations.
That's
so
why I
you knew you
about
were going to get that from him.
In regards to Ben Bryant?
Just in general, like if the program still feels the pressure of like outside expectations. The Ben Bryant thing, it's kind of interesting. Like he continues to talk about,
his maturity,
his ability not to get too high or too low, not to be impacted by a drop coming off a game where there were a bunch of drops.
Well, at some point, if you're comparing that to QB2, at some point that was said about Prater, where his highs and lows weren't much different. So I don't know if that's just what they say about their quarterbacks, or if that's.
That's what they train them to do. Obviously, like that's obviously what they want out of them.
But at some point, I want to say that it was Brady in the preseason when we had him on the shows. He had mentioned their highs and lows are about the same. So I don't know,
because that's what they hammer into him. The maturity might be a little different.
Well,
but that's Ben's a couple years older and has been through more fires. Like that's with each passing year, you gain more and more of that, right?
Sure.
That's the whole process of getting older. So, not surprising a guy in his fifth year is a little farther along than a guy in his third, because that's what's supposed to happen. And then, how the team reacted to him breaking the win record, and how he talked about, it's something that he needed to remind himself, like,
winning's hard.
It's hard.
But it was funny that he said it takes a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds to teach this old guy something every now and then.
The funny thing is it's something he preaches to them. Enjoy the wins. Make sure you're living in the moment.
And he got caught up in being disappointed with eking out a 29-27 victory on the road against SMU at their homecoming.
Right. Yeah. So good stuff from him. I thought the star of the show was Mason Fletcher.
Well, before that, Chuck McClellan was the fastest presser I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, Chuck just doesn't. He's not one to elaborate. Like he gives short, concise, direct answers.
Yep.
He's not loquacious. Is that the word I'm looking for, Aaron?
That was a word that came out in the I want to say the Bengals broadcast this week, and I made fun of it when I heard it. I'm like, why are we saying this in a football broadcast? What are we doing?
I just said it in this podcast. You got a problem with it?
Nope. Here we are.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But Mason Fletcher, great insight. Like he's an interesting dude.
Not here for the spotlight.
No, and it kind of makes sense. Again, as we have talked about, his dad is a legend in Australian rules football, so he's been around the spotlight his whole life. Kids that are around that either go one of two ways, right? They either have to have it or they don't want anything to do with it. And he's cool not having anything to do with it, which kind of stinks because he might be one of the better personalities on the team.
I love that he even reached out to his dad this week as he's been recognized in public more, as he continues to build a quite a resume for the Ray Guy Award, but he reached out to his dad to figure out how to handle the spotlight because it's all new to him and he didn't quite know what to do with it, which fascinating to me.
I mean, you're a punter. Like,
you don't expect it.
You don't expect that to happen. But when you hit a ball 84 yards and you average 64 yards a kick, and, now you're being talked about as one of the best. And ironically, this is when it happened for Jimmy, too, his second year. His second year was when he finished second for the Ray Guy Award. So it's interesting that they're kind of both on that same trajectory.
Sure.
And then maybe the most fascinating thing, Fickle talking about, like, look, I want him to kick the ball 45 yards with 4.5 second hang time.
He does.
And if you look at their averages, he is averaging just over 45 yards and like 44.2 net. So on the season, teams are averaging 1 yard per return on his kicks.
Because he's doing exactly what they're training the Gunners to do. Shout out Gunners. And
it's the Gunner and Walk On Network.
He's doing exactly what they want him to do and getting the job done. Gunners are getting it done, and that's all you can ask for from your special teams.
Real quick, Wes Miller. It's like the 4th week in a row we've talked to him. I'm out of questions, like new questions, basically. The only thing interesting I did find today is he talked about playing some zone.
Because he likes winning more than he doesn't like playing zone.
He hates zone. Like, he's one of those coaches that to their core hate zone. But with a team like this that is as long and kind of the way that they are built at the 2, 3, and 4, and then a team that doesn't have a ton of rim protection, because of the zone, you're not going to have a lot of drivers to the basket where rim protection is a critical factor like it is in man-to-man.
Just don't ever again in your entire life ask him what zone he plans on running.
I didn't ask him what zone he plans on running. I asked him because I know he hates zone. What was like, oh, you're a zone guy, huh? What kind of zone guy are you? You a 2-3 zone guy? You a 1-3-1 zone guy? You a matchup zone guy? Knowing I'm not I hate zone. Yeah, I know that was like that's how he wanted to answer. He wanted to tell me to get out because he started laughing and he just looked at me like, you're an asshole. But I did see a little bit of zone in practice today. I won't tell you what kind, but I did see a little bit.
Don't ever. Also,
well, I mean, once it's on tape, it's like the secret will be out in 2 weeks. But
I also noticed that he did talk a little bit about leaders. Just wanted to make sure that I guess the fans understood that they aren't appointing leaders on this team. They're not just like, you've been here a while, you're a captain, you're a leader, get the job done. He spoke about how leaders have emerged themselves and spoke at length, even when asked specifically about John Newman. Instead, made just a whole soapbox about David DeJulius and how they had quite a practice yesterday. This morning they went in and DeJulius was already there, drenched in sweat, and he had no idea how long he had even been there at that point. But DeJulius just out here grinding.
Yeah. Had a pretty good practice today. Offense is really good. Defense is they've got a little work to do defensively. They're not quite where they need to be yet.
I feel like this is the same conversation we have every year, though.
Yeah, I mean it's
offense
is ahead of the defense,
right.
Especially when you're working in Finney and Nolly and Ezekpe and Dan and Josh and to a lesser extent Sage. Just we'll see what the plan is, whether he's going to play or redshirt this year, whatever.
Right.
JD and Kalu spoke. I didn't. There wasn't a ton to take from either of those. I didn't think.
No, I mean,
got to know Kalu a little bit.
You did. I think this is the first real time he's spoken. He looks up to Draymond and
Millsap.
Paul Millsap.
There's one more. Grant Williams.
I don't know if it was Grant.
It's Grant Williams who played at Tennessee. Yeah. I'm telling you. I wasn't asking.
Okay.
You looked at me like you didn't believe me.
Because I'm thinking Grant Williams that used to play for like the Portland Trailblazers, and now I'm questioning if his name was even Grant Williams. I've had enough here.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. It is the nightcap. Right here on BearcatJournal.com, brought to you as always by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken.
See ya!